using for After Effects. Now, to make sure that we have the same, I will go to Window and I will go to Workspace and I will choose Standard. So all the windows that I see, you should see if you do exactly the same. Every animation or every movie that we make in After Effects starts with a composition. The composition is a container that is comprising all our elements that make up our movie. So I don't want to go super big, so 1280 by 720 is fine. You can use the standard here. High definition video for television, 25 frames per second. We want to make this, I don't know, well, you know that the aim is 32 seconds because you had a look at the original one. So we were trying to replicate that one. The background color is black, that's fine. We just press OK. And there's our first composition, and this is the timeline where we put all our elements. So in the first video you can see that everything starts with a little vignette. And I'm going to show you what the vignette is made of. It's simply a light, like a spotlight, which is shown on to a solid, just a rectangle. So let's create the solid by right mouse clicking into the timeline, new, and say solid. A dialog box will pop up. We want to make this a light yellow, slightly off yellow. There's the color picker. Let's go a warm yellow. It's just an off-white. Here we go. That's about it. Make sure that it is the composition size, so it's not smaller. And we just say OK. There's the first one. And the second thing that we need is a light. So we say that it is a spotlight. We want this to be perfectly white. And we just leave everything as is. Maybe the fall off, let's put it to none. And we don't want shadows because that is just too expensive with regard to our processing time. And then you just say OK. And it's giving us a warning message, and that is quite important. Camera and lights do not affect 2D layers. So right now, that layer here, that solid, is a 2D layer. So we need to change that into a 3D layer. How do we do that? If you just hover over this one, 3D layer allows this layer to be manipulated in 3 dimensions. So we just click on that one, and voila, look what's happening here. Now let's just zoom out a little bit and make sure that we can replicate that vignette. So that is the target where we are shining at. So let's leave that in the middle. Then we have moving it in the X direction, moving it in the Y direction, up and down. And if you hover over the blue one, we move it away from the screen and towards the screen. So let's just bring that out a little bit. Bring that over so it's slightly centered. And it is a little bit dark around the corners. So let's bring that out a little bit more. Here we go. And there's our vignette effect. And we are done. The next thing that we want to do is the text that came in. So we do again right mouse click, do text, and type millions. Double click this one. Make sure that the color is something like a blue, something like this. That goes pretty nicely on the yellowish background. If we have this, so if we are close here, this is just like a cursor, but if we are ahead with the toggle, we can move our millions across the stage. Now let's make this bigger, maybe 220. So there are 2 ways of doing this. Whenever you have something yellow, you can either left mouse click and drag to the left and right, and the values go up. So that's a little bit too big, so let's try 220, or you use your keyboard to get it. Let's have it more centered a little bit. Wonderful. And the next thing was another text which said of videos viewed. Okay, so double click that again and change the color to something burgundy, maybe a little bit more red rather than burgundy. It's a little bit too pinkish. Here we go, that's a bit more like it. Yeah, the dark red. Yeah, dark red, that'll do. Now, because there are more words there, we reduce this in size quite a bit. Okay, now move this down to the bottom, and maybe we change again that layer with the millions and move that down a little. If that happens, now I just created a new one, so let's just click on there, hit delete, click on millions and select the selection tool and then move it a little bit down. So now we are making our first animation. So there's our timeline. If we use the shift and the page down key, we step in frames of 10. Here we go. They got 10 frames per second. Okay, 20, and then 5 frames in 1 second. So let's go to 10 and do 2 more. So that's 12 frames. Zoom in a little bit. You will have more space than I do, but I don't have much more space because I'm limited to the video size. And now we want to animate things. So right now we want to collapse here and see the transform. So we want this to fly in from the bottom, rotate a little bit around that pivot down here, make the opacity grow, and then have the whole thing grow as well. Okay, so we want to change the scale, we want to change the rotation, we want to change the opacity, and we want to change the position. So now we are at 12 frames.